Get here early on time.
It's 9:45.
So the format, the general format, it'll vary actually, but the format for the sessions this morning.
In being here before you reminds me of earlier scientific conferences on ayahuasca. I'm reminded of the symposium I organized in Bogota in July 1985, Shamanism and the Use of Plants of the Genus Banisteriopsis and its Additives, an interdisciplinary approach. The proceedings of the symposium, which was attended by scholars from 9 countries, were published in Mexico in 1986. I want to first see. You got it? Yeah, forward. Nothing is happening. Oh, where? All right, okay, there it is. Okay, so the special issue of American Indigena. At the symposium, the room, although much smaller than this one, was also packed. 15 years have passed since, and yet many of us still continue to be equally fascinated by the Amazonian vine, a vine which, as vines usually do, connect all of us in one way or another. I am also reminded of the first health conference organized by the Center of Medical Studies of the UDV, Sao Paulo, 1991, with the objective, and I quote from the UDV website, presenting the up-to-date scientific knowledge available about all aspects involving the use of ayahuasca tea. From that encounter emerged a biomedical study of ayahuasca, which Jace Callaway, Charlie Grove, and Dennis McKenna are going to talk about this afternoon. This conference was followed by the Conferencia Internacional dos Estudios de Ayahuasca, International Conference on Ayahuasca Studies, also organized by the UDV at the Hotel Gloria in Rio de Janeiro in November 1995, with nearly 1,000 attendants. What also comes to mind is the Congreso sobre Unión Ritual de Ayahuasca, conference on the ritual use of ayahuasca, which took place at the University of Campinas, Brazil, on November 4th, 5th, 1997. Around 24 papers were presented at this conference, which will appear shortly in the book entitled O Uso Ritual de Ayahuasca, The Ritual Use of Ayahuasca, edited by Bia Labate and Vladimir Sena. It is important to point out that the parallel to the development of the Brazilian syncretic religious organizations that have ayahuasca as their sacrament, there is also scientific reflection on the phenomenon. At least 10 master theses on ayahuasca have been defended in Brazilian universities, and one here at the San Francisco at the California Integral Studies, Institute of Integral Studies. Most of this work have been written by members of the various religious organizations. Several serious studies have also appeared, among them the Santo Daime Cultura Amazónica by Vera Froes, 1983, Guiado pela Lua by Professor Edward McGray of the Department of Anthropology of Salvador University. Not working this? Which point is there? It's not working. The next one? Okay, now? Okay. And Eugenio da Floresta of Alberto Groisman of Santa Catarina Federal University. Is it possible for you just to press, Okay. So I'll say next, and okay. Who is currently completing his doctoral dissertation in England on the Daime phenomenon in Europe. Of course, I should also mention the work of Alex Polari. I don't have photos here, but Alex Polari is going to be here, and so he's going to present his own work. Our studies of the ayahuasca vine give us a good excuse not only to think of the ecosystem from which it emerged, but also to think of the people who discover its properties. Let us for a moment try to imagine what the Amazon was like before Francisco de Orellana sailed down the Napo and the Amazon rivers in 1541. The prodigious biological diversity of the rainforest was probably echoed in the immense cultural diversity of the area. The area was inhabited by literally millions of people who spoke hundreds of languages of at least half a dozen linguistic families, who decorated their bodies in the most varied ways, who possess an array of skills, and who occupy a territory that until recently was thought of extremely inhospitable to human habitation. Today we know that the Amazon rainforest is not a pristine natural temple to which men had to adapt. The Amazonian rainforest is very much a human construction. It is an immense anthropogenic garden, a garden where great civilizations for whom stone was a rarity may have flourished. The arrival of Europeans in this immense anthropogenic garden was a catastrophe. except for those indigenous groups who bravely maintain their independence, such as the Shuar, or those lucky enough to be living in territories that were difficult for Europeans to reach, the people of the Amazon were unable to repel the invasion. Diseases were the most formidable weapon of the Europeans. Diseases the Pre-Columbians had never before experienced preceded the conquerors. In the Amazon, disease traveled extremely fast, causing a devastation unimaginable, even to the invaders. Modern calculations point to a mortality rate of 75%, to epidemic waves occurring every 20 years. To this original catastrophe should be added the infamous robber boom of 1815-1914, documented by the British diplomat in the Amazon Journal of Roger Casement from 1910, edited by Angus Mitchell. Recently, it just came out a couple of years ago. In the Putumayo region and other areas of the upper Amazon, the cost in human lives of the production of latex for the European and American car and weapon industry added up to 5 million dead. The achievement of people of the Amazon have not been sufficiently recognized. They are seen as somehow inferior to the people of the Andean highlands or of Mesoamerica. The reason is simple: an indifference to the knowledge that the people of the Amazon have of this and other worlds, a lack of interest in the peculiar way of seeing the world, of their philosophy, of their poetry, of their music. Instead, we are preoccupied with their oil, with their gold, their precious woods, the tropical fish, their flowers, their medicines. We are preoccupied with whatever plant, animal, or product may have value in the outside world. To this very day, the land is subject to violent assault. Another part of our inheritance from this world is ayahuasca. To the people of the Amazon, ayahuasca originated in the other world of mythic times. For the Desana, as documented by Rachel Dolmatov, next one, ayahuasca was born of the incestuous union of the sun father and his daughter, who, in looking at the brilliance of the sun, became impregnated through her eye. And next one. In the word of the myth, the child was made of light. The child was human. It was light. It was Yahé. For Kaxinawa, Yaminagua, and other Panoan groups of Peru and Brazil, ayahuasca originated in a secret knowledge from the subaquatic realm, according to Dan Lagrue, Oscar Sanz-Calavi, and others. For other groups, it emerged from the cadaver of a shaman or a mythical being, which is also the case in the basic myth of the Yunnan de Vegetal, or from the tale of a giant serpent joining heaven and earth, as documented by Jonathan Miller next, in an article included in Ayahuasca Reader, Encounters with the Amazon Sacred Vine, a work edited by Stephen White of St. Lawrence University, Canton, New York, and myself, which arrived yesterday fresh from the press at this conference. One of my goals in this lecture is to illustrate the variety of ayahuasca rituals. I will start with some examples of indigenous rituals documented in various moments of the last century. I will later give examples of non-indigenous ayahuasca rituals. We have sufficient data from the upper Amazon to allow us to make some generalizations about the ideas of the indigenous groups who use ayahuasca. Their ideas are, of course, also found in other parts of the world. These indigenous groups of the upper Amazon consider the universe to consist of two superimposed realities. The other reality they consider in its turn to consist of several disks or dimensions. Ayahuasca is conceived to be the supreme tool for accessing these other worlds. This access requires a gradual mastering of the brew, beginning often at an early age. In broad terms, we may distinguish two main types of ayahuasca ceremonies among the indigenous groups of the northern Amazon. One type is associated with great collective ceremonies of magic religious nature, such as initiation rite for youth, funeral ceremonies in which manioc beer and other plants such as coca or tobacco are also consumed. These ceremonies include dances that take place partially during the day or in great feasts in which there is an interplay of light and shadow. A second type is associated with more intimate ceremonies in which ayahuasca is usually taken in the dark only by a shaman or a few other people, the purpose being, for example, the diagnosis of illness, divination, or contact with the spirits. Next. Description of the first type have been documented by Carsten for the Shuar or Jibaro, by Goldman for the Cubeo, by Rachel Dolmatov. I'm sorry. I'm just going to point out about the Ayahuasca Reader. This is an anthology. We have over 40 contributors. The texts have been translated for nearly a dozen languages, including Danish and many indigenous groups. Next. Okay, so description of the first type have been documented by Castaing for the Shuar, by Goldman for the Cubeo, by Rachel Domatov for the Desana, by Stephen and Christine Hugh Jones for the Barasana, by Kai Orhem from the Macuna, etc. The second type has been reported on by, among others, Huitzen for the Quechua Ecuadorian group, by Kensinger, Janet Siskin, Angelica Gebhardt, Bruno Ilios, El Slagru, Oscar Calavia for Panoan groups in Peru and Brazil. My first example is one of the Shuar Natem ceremony. Natem is the name of ayahuasca for the Shuar. This indigenous ritual was documented by the Swedish-Finnish scholar Rafael Castaing in the last century. Rafael Castaing was the first to make an ethnographical description of an ayahuasca ritual he witnessed while visiting the Shuar, also known as Jibarov, which for them is an insulting name, of Ecuador, during 2 expeditions carried out between 1916 and 1919 and 1928 and 1929. By the way, just synchronicity. Years after, I work at the Swedish School of Economics in Helsinki, and I'm having his position. And Rafael Castaing was also exactly the same position. In addition to several articles, Castaing also wrote a massive volume, describing his travels among the Shuar, the material cultures, social life, religion, and art. Castaing carefully documented the warfare and victory feasts of the Shuar, giving a special attention to the rituals around the tzanza, the head trophy, which is used as a source of power. The rituals include a series of feasts spaced over a period of several years after the celebration of the acquisition of the tzanza. The first feast, which Castaing calls the washing of the blood, is a purification of the body and clothes of the slayer. The slayer has to live in austere ways with no sex and a very strict diet until the next feast that takes place 3 or 4 months later. After 2 to 4 years, the final victory feast takes place. The Natema ceremony, described by Castaing, took place on the second day of the feast. The drinking of the Natema took place at about 8 in the morning. The slayer, his wife, and his daughter, and those going to take Natema fast. The slayer, after being given tobacco juice through his nose, prepared the Natema, his hand being held by the Shuar priest. At another fire, tobacco was simultaneously boiled to be mixed with Natema. The slayer, wife, and daughter collaborated ritually in the making of the brew. On the spot where the Natema was cooked, there was also placed a piece of the stem of the manioc plant and 2 narrow strips of the bark of samiki. Next, it's a Calliandra species. Okay, this is photos taken by Castaing at the time. And next, 2 narrow strips of the bark of samiki, Calliandra species. Note that Castaing do not report the use of either Diplopterus cabrerana or Psychotria viridis or any other DMT-containing plant unless in Calliandra there is any tryptamine. I think that I vaguely remember that Jace Callaway said that perhaps there was famitoxid DMT. No, it was tetrahydroharmine. I'm not sure. We have to ask him. Note that the Castaing do not report the use of either. The object of the ceremony was to establish a mysterious connection between the slayer, who is supposedly to be filled with supernatural power, the tobacco water to be mixed in the Natema drink, and the manioc plant, which the person drinking the brew will see in the dream. In the victory feast, both men and women, even half-grown-out children, take part. All who want to dream being allowed to drink Natema. The drinking has throughout a ceremonial character. During the victory feast celebration, half a liter of Natem is drunk 3 times, which is followed by vomiting. The participants do not eat or drink anything before the ceremony, nor after. They have slept and dreamed. After the ceremony, the dreamers leave the house and remain in shelters in the forest where they sleep until afternoon. After they wake up, they take a bath in the river and return to the house where they tell all the Indians what kind of dreams and visions they have had. The object of the drinking of Natema at the victory feast is to dream of the house of the slayer and his close relatives surrounded by large and flourishing plantations of manioc and banana. They see domestic animals, his swines and his hens, numerous and fat, etc. At the same time, the person who have drunk the sacred drink will benefit themselves, being purified from impure and disease-bringing matter, and gain strength and ability in their respective works and occupations. Next. Now we go to a Cubeo. My second example of the indigenous rituals is the Cubeo ceremony documented in the last century in the classical work, The Cubeo Indians of the Northwest Amazon by Irving Goldman. First published in 1963, it is based on fieldwork undertaken in 1939-1940, at a time when this indigenous group was still unaffected by the outside world. Drinking parties in which huge quantities of manioc beer, tobacco, and coca leaves are consumed were frequent among the Cubeo at the time Goldman was doing his fieldwork. These parties always had a sacred character, the frequency and their attendance attesting to the state of social health of the SIB, smaller unities in which factories, large society group unity, were subdivided. These parties proceeded according to fixed stages, following a distinct protocol, beginning with a slow, solemn, and stately manner, and proceeding stage by stage through a steady mountain of tempo until an orgasmic peak is reached, which is followed by subsidence. The entire proceedings considerably follow the sexual rhythm for courtship to coitus. Miji, ayahuasca, which is considered sacred by the Cubeo, is not taken at every drinking party, but only in those that are considered very important. The Cubeo prepares several varieties that are graded according to potency. Upon truly solemn occasions, they began with a mild infusion from the leaves of a variety that was taken at exactly at midday. We don't know which is the variety, this is still, and concluded with a very strong variety just before sunset. It is important to remember that the various kinds of ayahuasca are distinguished by many indigenous groups. In spite of years of scientific research on various aspects of ayahuasca, this question is still unresolved. This sequence of Miji transport a man from vague and mild visions of whiteness to intense hallucinatory experiences, bursts of violence, and finally loss of consciousness. Miji almost invariably causes vomiting, and for that reason alone, one must take many servings. In the Cubeo world, only men cultivate and take Miji. For each type of Miji, there are 4 servings taken from a small gourd dipper. The first service is of 2 dippers, the second of 1, and the third and fourth of 2 each. At the beginning, the Indians say, Goldman as well as Carsten never took the brew. The visions become blurred, things begin to look white, and one begins to lose the faculty of speech. The white visions turn to red. One Indian described it as room spinning with red feathers. This passes, and one begins to see people in the bright coloring of the jaguar. When the final strong forms of Miji are taken, the hallucinations begin to assume a disturbing and fearful form. One becomes aware of violent people milling about, shooting, weeping, threatening to kill. One is seized with the fear that one has no longer a home. The houses, posts, and trees come alive and take the form of people. There is a strong sensation that an animal is beating one's buttocks, a feeling of the feet being tied. The earth spins and the ground rises to the head. There are moments of euphoria as well when one hears music, the sound of people singing, and the sound of flowing water. The Cubeo do not take Miji for the pleasure of its hallucinations, but for the intensity of the total experience, for the wide range of sensations. Goldman says, I spoke to no one who pretended to enjoy it. Goldman makes a detailed account of the morning ceremonies, which better than any other ceremony among the Cubeo shows the full spectrum of emotion and have the purpose of transforming grief and anger into ecstatic joy. These ceremonies usually take place about a year after the death of one of the members of the community and last for 3 days. A second part of the morning ceremony, which takes place a month later, lasts from late afternoon until the dawn of the following day, carries forward the theme of emotional transformation, ending in fact in true sexual license, when men are privileged to copulate with their sips and fratres, brothers, wives. Its main themes, however, were religious and magical, including the expulsion of the spirit of the dead, as well as the magical absorption of the substance of the deceased into the body of the sib. Although Goldman did not witness it, it seemed that at the event at the time there was some kind of endo-cannibalistic practice among the Cubeo. I don't have the time to go into that. My third example of indigenous rituals is from the Siona narrative. Next, let's see. Yeah, okay. This is in fact from the Sana photographs taken by Raizel Dolmatov to illustrate the Cubeo. But they are very closely related. It's a Tucanon tribe. Next. Okay, so I'll stop there. My third example comes from the Siona narrative. The Siona live in the northwest Colombian Amazon, collected by American anthropologist Jean Landon, one of the pioneers in anthropological studies of ayahuasca, first published in Ayahuasca Reader, edited by Stephen White and myself, and it is entitled A Siona Travel to the High River of the Second Heaven. According to Langdon, ayahuasca empowers the Siona to know the universe, which is characterized by 2 superimposed realities. The first, which they call this side, is that which is normally visible, the everyday reality. The second, designated as the other side, is normally hidden. It is composed of 5 discs arranged hierarchically, beginning with the level under the earth and extending up to the end of the heavens. Numerous entities inhabit the universe, each of one living in its own domain. Through the Yahé ritual, the Siona traveled to these remarkable and beautiful domains. Each domain is characterized by its particular sound, rhythm, music, smells, and colors. However, adventures on the other side can also be full of dangers that plunge a novice into the evil spirit domain, a dark and rotten realm full of frightening and evil beings and monotonous singing sounds, far different from the beauty and colors of the heaven realms. If not brought back by the master shaman, the unexperienced may never return to this side. The narratives describe a failure. This narrative describe a failure of Ricardo Yaguaje, the son of Leonides Yaguaje, one of the last great Siona shamans, to know the domain of designs or designs Toya of the High River, which, as Landon points out, runs through the second heaven, the heavenly level above the earth that begins at the point where you can see no farther with the naked eye. And I'm going to read from the Ayahuasca reader. Okay. So I'm reading too fast, but I have so much material, but I will try to go a little bit slower. Okay. So, I'm reading from Siona, from this narrative. I slept and dawned, and then they cooked another house of Yahé. They cooked, in this house you will take off, shaman said to me. Thus it is good. I'm going to see. I was thinking as I listened. This last house, I will show you all with this last house, and you will play the flutes, he said. He said, and my heart was happy. A happy man, I listened. Then we went up in another house, we cooked. Likewise, born Yahé, we cooked. We cooked, and when it was dark, we descended to the Yahé house. We descended. Likewise, one mouthful the time he served me. He served, and first for the elders, he arranged and served. By the way, just notice this is a literal translation. Jean has done the effort to give us the taste of the narrative itself, how it is put forward by the Siona. He served, and first for the elders he arranged and served. He finished serving and then served me. Okay, in-law, come to drink, he said. He said, and I went and drank. I drank and waited, but the Yahé dream didn't come at all. It didn't come, and much time I waited. I was waiting a long time, and then the Yahé came. That time a brilliant and clear image came. It is shining well, thinking and seeing I lay. Laying for a while, then right in the middle, suddenly only black-winged creatures everywhere, like the ones we were mentioning, Raf was mentioning yesterday. Everywhere, everything in darkness. The Yahé came to me. As it came, what is happening to me, thinking and seeing I lay? I was reclining, and when pitch black people said to me, zzz, 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 their nose plugging up my ears. All plugged up, I couldn't speak at all. Seeing I was a lost person, and I was seen and laying. As I lay, why has the Yahé come shining in this way? Why is it shining those black-winged creatures? I said looking, and surely black creatures such that I had never seen approached. They came and cast out metal chains trying to tackle me. Then a cotton fishing line, a people catching line, they were casting. A black line they were hurled out, trying to tackle me. On the other side, I remained strong. I was strong. Then again they cast, and likewise ducking and ducking, I tried to escape, and they threw the line at me. They threw but didn't catch me. They are doing evil to you in that place, the Yahé people were saying. They are trying to catch you. That black house is bad for you, and they are trying to make you lost forever. They were saying to me, what a large house it was, their house. Their house had a black emptiness inside, a black house. Then, as I saw woman-like creatures in dirty clothing, people dressed in clothing like it was rubbed in mud, these women approached. They came, I had never seen such ones, those mud-covered ones that they were coming. As they came, I was seen laying. As I was reclining, then others, the drunken spirits, pulling the tongues way out, dropping down, then rolling and wallowing on the ground they came. As they came, I was seen and laying. Lying, oh, it is very bad for you, the Yahé people were saying to me. We are going to make you die, they say, the drunken people. Even though they spoke, I could only watch, just watching. Then my older brother asked, now did the Yahé shine well for you, child? He said, no, it is not shine well for me, I said. What is it shining? He said. Only all those black creatures, like night the Yahweh shines for me. No designs, does it shows it all to me, I said. Then why didn't you tell me? If you had told, I would have cleansed you, he said. He spoke and then got up and fetched water and was purifying me. Now has it transformed and has the evil left? The bad is passing, I said. That is good. But why didn't you tell? Do you want to die? He asked. Why did it shine in that way? I was lost. With it shining that way I couldn't speak, I said. Now you will come out. Did it shine briefly and now it's gone? He asked. Now I am well, I said. That being so, very good, he said. I have spoken. I may add that the fear of being vanquished upon entering the dimensions of the mind is a recurring theme in the narratives throughout the ayahuasca reader. A Yagua initiation ritual. My fourth example is a Yagua initiation ritual is from a more recent investigation published by the French anthropologist Jean-Pierre Chaumeil in his book Voir, Savoir, Pouvoir, le chamanisme chez les Yaguas du Nord-Est péruvien. To see, to know, to have power. Shamanism among the Yagua of northeastern Peru. Published in 1983 in French and in 1998 in Spanish. A chapter of this book called Initiation Experience was published in Ayahuasca Reader. I'm just going to read a little bit of it. 59. Yeah. So, well, in the Yagua initiation, they are taking various plants. You know, his teacher is giving first piri piri, tobacco, and ayahuasca, and other plants. So I'm just taking a little piece from the ayahuasca. Before drinking Ramanuja, which is the essence of ayahuasca, my deceased father transmitted to me his power that is contained in a viscous substance or phlegm, Vorapandi, that he brought up from the bottom of his stomach and compelled to me to swallow. Do you remember the film last night? Don Emilio, he's bringing forth his yachai, his phlegm. She will remain in your stomach to make you know, he assured to me, to keep me from vomiting. He blew tobacco smoke over my body, but I vomited twice. Cha, cha. Of the 7 flames, only 5 remain in my stomach. Those will remain forever, continued my father. No one can take them from you, not even the great healers. They will come out through your mouth when you die, but not before. Without them, you won't have access to knowledge. I'm giving you part of my power, the transmissible part. The more you have, the greater your power. The mothers will make you swallow 3 flames, but this you can transmit to others, the way I just done. On the 3rd moon, Musa Vanditu, I again drank ayahuasca, mixed with tobacco juice and piri piri. At each stage, a new plant is added, with the goal of knowing them all little by little. My deceased father and I sang the song to call the mothers of ayahuasca. Mother of ayahuasca, I'm going to call you. Yeah, 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 mother of ayahuasca. I don't know you, I want to know you. I still don't know you. Teach me how to heal. I want to extract virotes, magical darts. Come, 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 come. The ayahuasca takes me, drags me along, images appear. My father questions me. I answer that I don't see anything. He gives me another dose that I swallow. The colors dance, the lit candles appears. On a second plane, animals torn to pieces parade past. My bones come out of their joints. The creatures devour my flesh. But a sweet voice echoed in my head. Look, study, learn about this plant. Smoke, but do not spit. Swallow all the smoke. Don't let even a mouthful escape. I suck on the cigar. Pe, pe, pe. A strange smell invades me, sweet and perfume, followed by the images of thick ayahuasca trunk. Whispering comes from below the vine, as if somebody were speaking or perhaps singing. I am the mother of ayahuasca. Come closer and light the cigar. I take several puffs on the enormous cigar, then they give me and I swallow all the smoke. A perfume penetrates my cold body. The images go up in smoke, little by little. I'm normal again. My bones are welded together. Then they appear again. I'm scared. They calm once more, only to return again. Terrifying images parade before my eyes. My bones explode. They are toothless monsters that fly, jump, fall, hang in the air, bite, and devour each other. I want to leave, but a voice intervenes. Drink a little bit more. You will see everything. I swallow my 4th or 5th dose, I can remember. Someone blows in my face. Poof. I open my eyes. It's a man. Then he says, I'm the mother of ayahuasca. Do you want to reach the world above the 2nd floor? We went up an immense ladder that pointed toward the sky, and we crossed several layers of clouds. In a second, we were all the way up there. Here and there, I see vessels with manioc beer and masks. Here, I change into this before you get sick and the virotes penetrate your body, I put on a kind of clothing. Then we go down on the earth again. I think that I have to cut, just going to, because otherwise I don't have the time to go, But anyway, other people, those who don't know, think that you heal on your own, but it is not like that. The people of the mothers of ayahuasca are also present. Is if they were your own people, your own children. The mothers call you Raje, father. They come and go, but they can also do harm. Closely related to the worldview of the Yagua is the world of some vegetalistas among the riverine population of the Peruvian Amazon, which is where I started to do serious research. You saw last night my film Don Emilio and His Little Doctors, shot in 1985 and completed in 1 year later. From materials collected while making the film and from field works carried out during the subsequent years, I put together, my doctoral dissertation published in Stockholm in 1986. After years of comparative work and field work carried out among practitioners of various indigenous groups such as the Cocama, Shipibo, the Campa of Ecuador, the Ingano and Kamsao, the Sibundoy Valley in Colombia, short visits to the Napo Quichua of Ecuador, and extensive field work in Brazil among all religious doctrinal lines using ayahuasca as a sacrament, my views of the vegetalista tradition begins to widen. When we talk about vegetalismo in the Amazon, we are dealing with a complex phenomenon. Its origin may be very complex. François Barbira Friedman, a French anthropologist, specialist in the La Mista, Peru, who wrote a marvelous piece for the ayahuasca reader, suggests that there are several vegetalismos apparently related to Andean traditions. Note that most of the icaros sung by the ayahuasqueros are in Quechua, the language of the Inca. In any case, vegetalismo is a highly syncretic phenomenon which includes Andean, Amazonian, Catholic, and esoteric elements from various traditions. But syncretism is the rule even among the indigenous people, for the fact that shamans are always in search of power metaphors from any source to be able to carry out their work. Just as an example, compare the altars of Miguel Chindoy, a Kamsa shaman of the Sibundoy Valley. You see all these images, Catholic, images, and that of one of the many vegetalistas I work with in Iquitos, Pucallpa, and surrounding areas. Next. You see, again, it's a highly syncretic phenomenon, both among the indigenous shaman and among the vegetalistas. Indigenous shamans may invoke images of power coming from the Christian world at the same time that mestizo vegetalistas may invoke the powers from the Indians or from the world of advanced technical societies such as this one, or even from the world of extraterrestrials, as shown in the work of former vegetalista Pablo Maringo. But before I present you with some of Pablo's work, let me comment on one misunderstood example of power discourse. I'm referring to the discourse of Manuel Córdoba Ríos and his kidnapping by Indians from who he got his shamanic knowledge, as portrayed by Bruce Lamb in Wizard of the Upper Amazon and Rio Tigre and beyond. Robert Carneiro has denounced this story as a hoax based on his knowledge of the Amahuaca culture. This position has been later supported by Jonathan Ott. In our introduction to our ayahuasca reader, Stephen White and I justify the inclusion of text by Bruce Lamb, Cesar Calvo, and a poem by Merwin about Manuel Córdoba Ríos by suggesting that what we have to do here is a power story. Córdoba Ríos' narrative may be considered a construction intended to establish the charismatic aura around his person, an element that makes healing and other shamanic practices possible. In much the same way, the shamans from indigenous cultural groups say that they receive their power from an eagle or an ant spirit. In order to establish his authority, riverine shamans say that they kept the diet for so many years, 2, 3, 4, even 6 years of a specific diet, which by now everybody knows consists basically in the exclusion of salt, sugar, fat, and sexual relations, etc. To an extent, I suspect that here we have a discourse that is, to a certain extent, also a power story. In the Peruvian shamanic tradition, the power of the shaman is defined in opposition with that with others. Boasting, as everyone knows who has been in the Amazon, is part of the discourse of many shamans. As we know, symbols are constantly adopted, exchanged, and reinvented. According to Jean Landon, the Yahé vessel, which is, the Siona Yahé vessel, which is painted with designs resembling the chalice used in Catholic Mass. The gestures of Peruvian vegetalistas when dealing with ayahuasca mimic in a certain way those of the priests manipulating the Eucharist. Invocations to Christ and saints are common, as you saw in my film last night. The Cruz of Caravaca, a double-armed cross whose origin, according to legend, goes back to the 4th century, that is invoked by vegetalistas, has been also adopted in the Santo Daime tradition in Brazil. For at least some of the members of the churches, the second arm represents the second coming of Christ. I do not have the time now to get deeply into this, but I hope that in this conference we will have the opportunity to have a debate about these and related matters, that of, for instance, the placebo responses in healing. I disagree with Jonathan Ott in his explicit dichotomy of real versus placebo sacraments. There are placebo responses in the use of ayahuasca and other psychointegrative substances in preparations the same way that there are in any medical treatment, as pointed out by Andrew Weil, who also writes that placebo responses originate in the mind and are a major clue to the interworkings of the mind and a potential key to activating true healing. At the same time, I must say that shallow, repetitions of rituals, or for that matter, psychoactive substances in a non-ritual way, are also found among practitioners using psychointegrators, including ayahuasca. I have the feeling that in many rituals of the organized religions, the social component, just the getting together, seems many times more important than eventual revelations during such rituals. In any case, mystical experiences and extraordinary healing phenomena are found among the most diverse religions, entheogenic or not. Of course, the chances of having such an experiences are greater when using a powerful brew such as an ayahuasca. Well, okay, next. Okay, this is one of my teachers, Jose Corral Cocama. Next. Next slide. Okay, so this is a very good chapter on the placebo responses by Andrew Weil that I really highly recommend, and I think this is very interesting for our work. Next. Okay, so now I just show some of the Pablo's paintings, and just see, this is Pablo when he was healed in a vision. He took ayahuasca with his father, and what came to heal him, they were not spirits of Indians or, they were an American doctor, his wife, and his daughter, a nurse, So in the power structure, it's, you have the power, It's an American doctor who comes to the Amazon to do the healing. At the same time, you have vegetalistas that invoke Indian shamans, to come to do the healing, Next. I think that I lost some. Anyway, this is ayahuasca vision. I think that, let me see. I just show you. This is not correct, but doesn't matter. We don't have much time now. Next one. This is again, But anyway, I just wanted to show you some of the latest paintings by Pablo Maringo, just illustrating the wealth, of symbolic power. Shamans, I have been thinking very much, they are chasers of metaphors. They go to other places, they are constantly getting images of power. And I think that we have to understand a lot of shamanistic phenomena as a poetic effort to bring images of power, which are then used in the healing or any other shamanistic activity. Okay, next. Okay, here, just give you. By the way, I brought with me 6 paintings by Pablo Maringo, the only ones that are outside galleries. He's now being very, very successful. These images come from a show in the October Gallery, just in London, by the British Museum, and there is going to have another exhibition in Lyon in the Biennale. Next. Oh, well, this is upside down, sorry, but anyway, just the complexity of the worlds of the vegetalista. I'm sorry, but you will see. And in this show, there were also works by Francisco Montes, who created the Sachamama Botanical Garden in Iquitos. And next one, I just brought it for you, Jeremy. You are there somewhere, Jeremy Narvi. Okay, here. You see this is the work of Yando Rios, one of the great pioneers in the ayahuasca work, with the Yakumama and the DNA. Next. Okay, so now we go. How much time I have? Well, see. Ayahuasca, as we all know, has become the central sacrament of organized religious associations that today are found in every state in major city of Brazil. They are the creation of 3 great visionaries: Raimundo Irineu Serra, 1980. I have the dates in the next one. I think that we have to go. Okay. Next one. See. No, I think that I lost the slide. Next one. Okay, there you have the dates. These are the 3 great visionaries: Raimundo Serra, Daniel Pereira de Matos, and Jose Gabriel da Costa. And then we have Sebastián Mota de Melo, disciple of Raimundo Irineu Serra, who started, a whole new, very important religious movement. Now, can we go back? And I will go very. See. Okay, before that, and before that. Okay, so just the phenomenon was originated during the second rubber boom. During as you know, Brazil entered the war, the Second World War, on the side of the Allies, and the Brazilian people from the Northeast, especially, they have to choose between going to fight Mussolini in Italy or going to the Amazon to tap rubber, and there was a huge movement of people from the Northeast, which is Brazil, with Afro-Brazilian elements, went to the Amazon. In fact, all of these, except Sebastián Mota, the three founders, they are all black. They're next, or at least José Gabriel da Costa has a lot of black blood as well. Each of these three visionaries formulated a particular doctrinal corpus from religious elements coming from Europe, Africa, and Amerindian traditions. A fourth religious leader is the Padrino Sebastián Mota de Melo, who was initiated by Mestre Irineo and who in 1974 created the Centro Eclético de Fluente Luz Universal Raimundo Irineo Serra, to which I will refer with the name Sefluris. This is a phenomenon that took place in the cities of Rio Branco, I don't have a laser, and the state of Acre, you remember the Japanese invaded Southeast Asia, and it was then that it was necessary to open up the Amazon again, the old plantations, to provide this country with rubber needed for the war. Next. Next. Okay. Right. Okay. So. According to Brazilian anthropologist Clodomir Monteiro, Mestre Irineo Serra took first ayahuasca with Juan Pisango, I don't have much time, no? A Peruvian, and with Antonio Costa in Brasileia. I think that I'm going to skip this part because we have here Alex Polare, who is the leader, and he will perfectly well explain the line of Irineo Serra. So I prefer to jump to the second line, which is less known. I just showed you that all these religions, they have many different elements, among them esoteric associations, just such as this, the Centro de Irradiación Mental, which is an esoteric organization that has an influence, I think, both in the line of Irineo Serra, in the Barquinha, and also, I think, also in the União de Vegetal. Next. Santo Daime has a wonderful web page, many pages. You have all the information. Sorry, you have to learn Portuguese, and you have, and you have to get out of the of this, Anglo-Saxon. What is called? Yeah. So you have to expand yourself if you want to learn about ayahuasca. A lot of the literature is in Spanish, Portuguese, German, and other languages. Okay, Barquinha is the less known of the next. Yeah, okay. Barquinha is the less known of the Brazilian doctrinal lines, and I think that I cannot read any longer because I will not have the time. So this is the Barquinha Church in Rio Branco. I have been working there quite a long time with them, following many rituals. Next. Then Barquinha means the boat, and it is extremely complex. Once I got into that, it's extremely complex theology. They say that there are three different realities, and the spirits are manifested in the three different realities. So you have, in one level is a bishop, and on the level is a fish on the Amazon, and on the level is a prince, and it's extremely complex. Next. So, and I was working with one of the Barquinha churches. They are divided into different churches. And by the way, because I wanted to talk about power, all these daime groups are very much based on charismatic power. So it is it's around the person, and that makes that it's possible. That many leaders will come out. In fact, when I was looking at the Santo Daime web page, you have the list of padrinos and madrinas, and you see that the power is in a certain way accumulated around these very important charismatic figures. The madrina is extraordinary in that respect, and in this Barquinha church, they work very much with incorporation of spirits. So this woman is able to transform herself, into an Indian, into a strong caboclo Indian dancing, or into a child, into anything. It's really incredibly plastic. Next. These Barquinha are totally devoted to ayahuasca in such a way that I in 1992 I make a calendar and find out that in 1 year the main members of the church had taken ayahuasca 192 times, you know. But still they have normal jobs. You know, that's an incredible thing, you know. So they sleep 3 or 4 hours, you know, and many of the people are working in the health care system. Next. And I've been documenting, for instance, this is a case in which they were more than healing, more preparing the man to die, a man who had AIDS, and he was in his final situation. But very beautiful rituals, and he was extremely comforted. Next. And I was with them collecting the vine, and this is we went to a place, found a vine that weighed 600 kilos. Next. But they are extremely careful about planting back into the forest. So they harvest. They never kill the plant. They will put stick cuttings, you know, everywhere in the forest where they are. And there are several Barquiña churches. This is from another one, another of the centers, extremely colorful. Next. And they have services in the church in which they have concentration, sitting, singing hymns for 4 hours in total perfect concentration and silence, and then they have fantastic, incredible dances, you know, with that last all night through. They have many of these festas, parties, you know, but are sacred parties. Next. Okay, so I'm sorry, I don't have the time to go much through that. Okay, next. Okay, and one of the interesting things for me is that they incorporate certain spirits, the spirit of pretos vellos, the black slaves, that they act. The church is open for hundreds of people that come to consult these spirits, who are really the psychoanalysts of the poor, as one member told me. Next. Okay, these are images of the pretos vellos. Next. Okay, and now again the symbolism. You see among the caboclos, the spirits of the Indians, these images of an Indian, but you see that this is not Amazonian Indian. This is, you know, North American and more from the Hollywood films, you know. But you adopt the symbol, and the symbol works. You know, it's the symbol is actually doing the work once you accept it. Next. And even among the religious images, mermaids like this one. You know, and by the way, just next one, the mermaid is everywhere in the Amazon. You know, this is from the Quichua Napo drawing, in which there is a shaman conversing telepathically with the mermaid. Next. Okay, and then we come to the last one, to the Unión de Vegetao. I don't have much. Usually, I never have time to talk about the UDV. You know. Anyway, the power really in the UDV. Is in the structure itself. There is no individual power. In fact, they all the time running the risk on being what's called. They come down from they have a 4 level, and all the time they are running the risk, if they don't behave, to come down to the lowest level. So there is a extremely powerful structure and very effective in moving across Brazil. Let me see if I find something that I wrote about them. I think that in the UDV, the path of knowledge is the gradual revelation and acceptance of a worldview which is embodied in a series of historias told by José Gabriel da Costa. These stories are gradually memorized when advancing up the 4-ladder hierarchy of the Unión de Vegetao. Power is intimately attached to these stories. They are to be told, never written down, by a competent person under the effects of the vegetal. The gradual understanding and memorization of the historias, which are lived in a particular vivid way under the effects of the sacrament, is one of the keys that determine the spiritual development of a person, their place within a hierarchy, and therefore their power. Next. Okay, this is one of the churches in Manaus. Well, I can just... You know, ceremonies are conducted beginning and finishing at exactly the same time. Punctuality is extreme. Obedience marked again and again. The documents with the basic rules of the Unión de Vegetao are read twice per month. A system of punishment that the most stern of all, the afastamento of the Comunión de Vegetao, to be removed from the communion with the sacred plant, is possible. Since there is a great prestige in reaching the highest rank, then of the mestre, to be taking the estrella, the star, is is a personal tragedy, implying severe stress on the person. Okay, well, I don't have that. Next. Okay, next. Sorry. This is just UDV, this is the short of Mestre Javier da Costa, and they say UDV, União de Vegetal, e obedece. Obedece, obedience. Okay? So it's very important in the system. Next. But interesting, what I was doing, you know, it was really a mistake by my part. I did so much field work of the Vegetalista tradition in the Peru. It never occurred to me just to cross the border and do work on the other side, on the Brazilian side. And there I found another Vegetalista tradition, and very linked to the UDV tradition. In fact, when I was interviewing Señor Domingo in Boca do Acre, I was recording hymns or chamadas extremely similar to those of the União de Vegetal. In fact, variants of the União de Vegetal. And I think that, you know, it's a pity. You know, I've been telling my very good friends of the União de Vegetal that the same way that they put such emphasis in the scientific study of ayahuasca, I think that they should place some study about the history of their own religion, because I'm sure that still today, if field work is done very fast, you know, in the Madre de Dios and its affluence, you know, we will find still among the city ghettos, the rubber tappers, elements from which Jose Gabriel da Costa drank, you know, and I think that it's extremely important to have that figured out, mapped out as soon as possible, because if not, if a religion do not know its history, is going to create it, you know. Next. Okay, yeah. So, well, I'm just go through. Yeah, I just wanted to some members of the UDV with extraordinary work. You know, this is an architecture professor of the UDV, professor in architecture. This is inspired by ayahuasca. Next. And okay, great artists like Alexander Segreyo of the UDV. Next. And next, you see the symbols. You know, here is the Indian. You know, that is the image of power. Next, and I was talking just briefly that there are all these three religions, but there are a lot of other groups who are syncretic. Yeah, I have heard of groups that leaders that have as their leaders both the Santo the Mestre Irineu Serra and Jose da Costa, and I think that this is going to happen more and more as there are happening, you know, ayahuasqueros and new ayahuasqueros, and I unfortunately I don't have the time to talk about that. You know, that was the last part of the talk. Next. And I'm just going to say that I myself, I'm doing, after 25 years of academic research, in the last 4 years I decided also, first very timidly, you know, but also to do workshops in the Amazon, and I'm going to have one in July, at the end of July, with some of the members, the people that came here. In the Brazilian Amazon. Next, and my teacher was an Emilio, and I'm going to just read the last paragraph, and with this I end, I think. Power, as all we know, can be an object of infatuation and misuse, both at the individual and institutional level. When dealing with ayahuasca and other plants and substances, it is important to be cautious. To lead sessions is a great responsibility that is not to be taken lightly. Ayahuasca is a strong potion. People can have many kinds of responses to it, including crediting the ayahuasquero with excessive knowledge and wisdom. The role of an independent ayahuasquero must be simply to facilitate and protect, based on their own experience with the brew, deliberately renounce it to exercise powers of other people. Each individual is then free to examine and explore his own philosophical presuppositions. Thank you.
Thank you, Eduardo. Am I close enough to this? Well, that was quite a flurry of information there. and I think we have like 11 minutes to analyze it and respond and ask questions and answer questions. But the themes that I just basically want to point out some themes and then take questions. And if we can, out of so many examples, if we can acknowledge the many wonderful things you pointed out from so many traditions, aspects, well, just some things that come to mind are how many cosmologies you touched upon, and the multi-leveled realities that are recognized in so many of these themes, and that basic dichotomy of the real world, or the visible world, and the invisible world that we see also in other traditions. For instance, the peyote tradition, where when you take peyote, you go into the real world and not living in this world of illusion or dream. And that seems to be the basic system, and then beyond that there are many levels. And I liked, maybe I misunderstood you, but I think you referred to Heaven 11 at one point, which that was an interesting idea in this culture. The many references to invoking other plant species and using ayahuasca as a lens to understand the spirit and the power of other plants. And so if you drop a little bit of one into another, it changes the experience and brings in a different element. I think it's important for us to remember where we have a fairly succinct definition of what the elements in this medicine are, what comes to this country, and what people experience. That it is also that it is very much a tool. I mean, that's what you're saying in many ways. It seems a tool for seeing these aspects of the cosmos, how it's brought down to earth. All of these species, the energy of healing, the energy of disease, so that we can recognize all of these. And I mean, I really love all the anthropological data on the various worldviews and metaphors. And then the metaphor of power, of did you say the poetic collection of metaphors of power? Yes. Which certainly it does seem to provide us with that kind of insight, and and teases threads of meaning on a big level out of our experience. But then also, power is so seductive, and that is reflected obviously in all of these hierarchies which occur, these social hierarchies, not only cosmological hierarchies. And we'll talk somewhat about that, I think, on the women's panel today too, since women are really conscious of hierarchies. But the fact that so many, or that these Brazilian syncretic religions seem to, I don't have direct experience with that, but I do with the vegetalismo, the Peruvian and Ecuadorian, more what I see as a more organic and slightly more. There's order, but there's more anarchy within that order. Not hierarchical really. It's more of a circle with the leaders that have a fluidity to them, and so I really wonder about the arrangement of power and the tendency toward kind of fundamentalism that occurs in religions, often maybe even in their forming stage. And I don't know if with given more time, if there will be some transformation of that tendency to this is the way and this is the way to do it. But it seems to come up in several of your examples pretty strongly. And I think it's just so intriguing that that Afro-Brazilian people, that black people have had such a, or not people actually, spirits almost. And even one of my very early experiences in the Peruvian Amazon in 1976, it was before I had ever read a word about it. I didn't know there were words to read about it. That I had an experience of walking in the jungle, having the plants identify themselves to me. I was on ayahuasca in a dark room, actually, with many Indian people, but there was someone walking along beside me. I realized there was this rough fabric brushing past me and my shoulder as I walked, and then I began to realize it was the gown of some being, and the being, when I looked up, was like 20 feet tall, and I could really not even see his head. It was a black man in a long burlap gown with his hand hanging down and his palm, all the lines in his palm were marked with jewels and rubies and emeralds, and it was just such a powerful but unlikely vision for me that I held that. Who is that entity in the medicine for years until I began to hear about all of this, and I'd like to know what you think about that. I mean, the Brazilian part, it's part of the culture. The Peruvian, it's not necessarily, except coastal.
Yeah, but there must be have some contacts, you know.
Yes.
I'm sure. You know, there's the thing what I was saying, you know, that I made that terrible mistake of for years being working only the Peruvian side, because simply it was difficult to get to the Brazilian side. You know, you have to take a plane that, you know, very few times. And it was extremely difficult to travel. And then I think that we need now field work on the other side and see this Brazilian Peruvian relationship, which is can be very very rich. Yeah.
I think I'll just ask. We only have a few minutes, so I'd like to have people ask questions. Yes, way in the back there. Yeah. Here, you have to come up to the microphone. Sorry. And if anyone else is ready, a second person, okay, can come up behind her, so you're ready, because we just have a few minutes. I don't think the people in the back can hear you. So if you have a question, why don't you come around and behind Linda. Thank you, Linda. Thank you.
Okay. As I said, Luis, I just want to thank you for the important work that you're doing, you know, going into the different worlds and really bringing to us these different forms in which ayahuasca is used, and congratulate you on your book that came out in such a magical way yesterday. But what I wanted to ask you about is we've seen men in roles as shamans and in these syncretic churches in Brazil, and having spent a lot of time among the Mazatecs of Mexico, where it's one of the few groups in which we see female shamans as having a prominent role. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, I remember in conversation with you once, you did mention a tribe in the Amazon in which there were female shamans working with ayahuasca, and it was little known. I was wondering if you could comment a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, in the Amazon, usually psychotropic plants or these plants belong to the masculine world, but it doesn't mean that the women do not get experiences. You know, I mean, you know, I can give you the example of the Shipibo, in which women do not take the brew, but they sit by the shaman, sing with him, and in fact have visions too. You know, so it's not necessary to have the actual drink, you know, in order to participate, you know, in the vision. Now, in the Amazon, there is the idea that only menopausic women, you know, after you have had your fertile life, then then you can get into the spirit world, because there are these taboos, menstruation taboos, and these things like that. But I want to point out, you know, that in the Brazilian churches you have also madrinas. I mean, exactly. In the Daime tradition, madrinas and padrinos, and then you see, you know, how the ceremonies work. You know, you have male and female, and it's you know, they are equal, you know, in that respect. You know, in the União Tejutau is different, because the highest position is, you know, that of the mestre is only taken by men, except one who is the wife, you know, of Mestre José Gabriel da Costa. In fact, you know, her power is derived then from José Gabriel da Costa. You know, but I think that probably we have more knowledge about male shamans simply because we have had more male anthropologists, you know. You know?
More women,
and for us, it's very difficult to get into the human world, in the women world, you know. But for a woman, it's possible to be in both worlds. So we need a lot of more women anthropologists doing field work and. You know,
And just a quick comment, when you're talking about the male and female, about the plant, some people might know, but I think it's a good talking about images of power to bring here to the conference, that, you know, among the Amazon people and among the Santo Daime and the other religions as well, the vine is seen as the male and the leaves are seen as the female, the rainha, the queen, and it's only when you combine those two, the male and the female, that you have the psychoactive effect. You have the power, you have the divine child that is born. So I think it's a beautiful image of just that balance of male and female and combining them together.
With Dennis, we have been talking about the serotonin hallucination and the DMT hallucination. You know, that both things, the being awake and being sleeping. You know, the remarkable thing with ayahuasca is that you are at the same time very awake and you are dreaming at the same time. And you combine these two, and it's from the interface of these states that you get information. That's why, you know, ayahuasca and creativity is extraordinary, you know, because we are going into the dream world awake. You know,
Great.
that is one of the keys, I think, to ayahuasca.
Gracias. Okay.
Well, as I said before, my question is regarding the movie you presented yesterday. And this healer or this shaman, he invoked Jesus Christ and on his ceremony, or as a figure of power for him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what I really would like to know, some commentaries about, did he only choose that figure, or through his finding to the truth, he see with ayahuasca, he sort of choose or corroborate some of the what people say about Jesus Christ, or what the culture or what the religion say about his great avatar, no? Or his find it.
You know, we have to think that, remember, the Amazon has been open for Christianization for 500 years. You know, so the extremely powerful images of power, you know, comes with the Christian. And in fact, when you start to study shamanism among indigenous people, you find almost everywhere, you know, anywhere nearly, except for the very, very isolated indigenous groups, that the images of Christianism are there, you know, extremely powerful there. You know, so it's not, as I said, you know, Christianity, I mean, it represents power, you know, and in fact it was imposed, you know, by force and violently in the Amazon as in many other places, and so they are taking these images, you know, powerful images as well, and incorporated in their belief system.
Yeah, but my question is, they just took it, or they just accepted it as a truth? Because through the visions, they find out they were
You know,
true.
That's
My question.
With ayahuasca and all these things, what you get is, you know, the ayahuasca is like a mirror. You see your own presuppositions. If you believe, you know, that Jesus is your savior, you will see Jesus or any other figure, you know. So in fact, I think ayahuasca is a very good way to analyze, to see oneself, you know, to take it and see what, you know, in situations of fear, you know, what is coming to help you, what a spirit is coming to rescue, and then you see really what is your belief, you know, because then they come. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And also, I think if you look at it from the point of view of people who analyze mythology, Christianity is a declension of the worshipping of the sun, and the Christ is the sun, S-U-N, and ayahuasca has the light shining, the sun aspect in it too. So there's some deep mythological level, there's a way in which you can imagine them blending their power.
Yeah, and metaphors of light, you know, in the ayahuasca reader we have a very thorough index, and the white light appears among indigenous people, among, you know, travelers, anthropologists, you know, the poets everywhere. You know, for instance, there is a very powerful image.
I think we're out of time. There's one person standing there. Ralph, can we take one question? Okay.
Okay.
Just one very brief question. Ayahuasca is a mirror, and we can use ayahuasca to look into ourselves. Ayahuasca is also something which is linked to power, and you talked about power trips, more or less, in hierarchies.
Yes.
So there is a white side and a black side.
Absolutely.
And it can be misused.
Oh, absolutely. I
And
think
so it's a bit strange, because ayahuasca is also a plant teacher. So I have a bit difficulties to getting it all together. So what do you think?
That's why, you know, black shamans you find in the Amazon. In fact, a lot of you know, the Amazon is a minefield. You know, when you go there, you know, I mean, I was also another disagreement with Jonathan about this course about drug tourism in the Amazon and poor people, you know, going there, and you know these people are smarter than you are, you know, in many ways, you know. So they are used, you know, they are used to rubber tappers, to people going to the Amazon for so many different reasons, you know. It's more probably that you will get trapped, you know, into some kind of, you know, power trip there than you are going to disturb some kind of culture, you know, because these have been open for 500 years, you know. So no, but I do believe that ayahuasca is both sides, and therefore humility extremely important. You know, when you enter into these dimensions, extremely important to be humble. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.